Julio, si podrías comentar un poco.
Julio, could you elaborate on the services? How has this changed in the last few years vis-a-vis the rest of trade? When I arrived in Mexico, it was a surprise for me to see that this was just outside free trade, but things have changed. And according to me, the most important coming change, even though it is already here, but it might turn out to be much larger, is the possibility of e-medicine or distant medicine. How you see this evolution and the way of providing healthcare services through digital means. Thank you very much, Jaime Sepúlveda and Stefano, for invitation, Dr. Graue and President Napolitano. Thank you very much for this initiative. It is a wonderful initiative. I have spent most of my professional life in Mexico. I have lived and worked in Mexico, but the last 8 years I have been a migrant myself, with opportunities, of course, and a documented migrant myself. But I believe that this is a crucial moment. This is a tipping point where it is rhetoric against migration. And this imposes on the universities a great opportunity of making their mission of being, of setting the example, institutions that through their own behaviors and values set the example for society. Now, to the extent that the two most important public universities of our country, the UNAM and the University of California, can demonstrate that dialogue is the best antidote to separation and division. This sets the example for society as a whole, and therefore I believe this was a wonderful initiative, and thank you very much for making me part of your initiative. At the Erasmus project, we have definitely seen the power of mobility of students and professors to achieve mobilization. We have to build a hemispheric consortium that facilitates mobility not only for educational purposes but also to build society that ends with stereotypes and that brings us closer with regard to the deepest identities that we all have, as Silvia has just explained. They are much more complex than the division between Mexicans and Americans. This is a very interesting panel because here we have a microcosmos of a U.S. citizen fluent in Spanish who has lived most of his life there, somebody who has an American last name because of his father, but he's a wonderful officer. We all are somehow migrants, and we all share a fundamental identity. So, congratulations for your initiative. Now, going to health, or to the health topic. We have a general framework that was created when we were discussing NAFTA at the end of the 90s. No, at the beginning of the 90s, I'm sorry, 1 year before signing NAFTA and because it entered in force, the Ministry of Trade, now the Ministry of Economy, as the National Academy, National Medicine Academy, to make a study for health services regarding NAFTA, and in that study we identified 4 modes, which are the movement of service providers, the mobility of service providers, mobility of consumers second, third, transborder provision of services, which is telemedicine. This is a topic that you have just mentioned, and the commercial presence, that is to say, the establishment of medical attention units from one country to another. After NAFTA, both, the 4 of them grew a lot. The most interesting case is a case of nurses for service providers, and thanks to NAFTA, it was a special category, TN visas, namely for nurses, and we have to ask ourselves what will happen with the revision of the types of visas allowed in terms of the capacity of the U.S. system to solve its chronic lack of scarcity of nurses, many of which are Mexicans, thanks to the NAFTA. Now, there is another very important topic. If visas professionals are affected. We have to recall that 25% of physicians practice in the United States were trained abroad, not only in Mexico, but in other countries as well. The way that the executive order was published, the first executive order of President Trump was published, foreseeing or banning the migration of citizens of 7 countries, mainly Muslim countries. They appeared at the British Medical Journal, and this was no chance. An article that gives evidence that physicians who were trained abroad the United States have in fact a better clinical performance that those trained in the United States. The question is it because foreign training schools are better? No. This is so because migration is a selection process of people, and to be a physician in the United States, if you have studied abroad, you have to be very, very good to practice in the United States. So 25% of the supply of physicians in the United States would be at risk if they eliminate visas for highly skilled professionals, and this would imply the collapse of the U.S. health system. We export a lot of physicians. We have very good physicians, mainly in nurses. And what relates to portability here is the consumers. And of course, portability of consumers has grown a lot. There are between 200,000 and 1 million U.S. citizens who come to Mexico for health services because of price differences. And this is between 40 to 65% in average. Lower, it depends on the type of service, of course, but they are much cheaper in the United States, from 40 to 65%. So in a health system that before Obamacare had 40 million people that did not have an insurance, there's 40 million people, now it's only 20 million after Obamacare. But depending on what the current administration does, the number of people could increase. Again, there's a lot of people that even though they have insurance, they are underinsured, what Eduardo was explaining. So for people who have portability, there is a great incentive to come to Mexico because of the geographical proximity and the reduction in prices. And this is good, very good. It helps a lot to the health system and uninsured people. So I don't like the term medical tourism. This is not medical tourism. Many times these are essential, important services, and NAFTA, of course, allowed an increase in this type of services. There has also been an increase in service provision, telemedicine. Today, this accounts for $23 billion market, projected to grow to $60 billion in the next few years. So, though with the progress made in technology, as well as the possibility of having virtual realities and even directed interventions, there is a huge potential of integration that has to be exploited. And finally, the commercial presence in Mexico. In Mexico, we find a lot of unions. Some of the U.S. chains that have presence in Mexico treat U.S. patients in Mexico because of the cost difference. So when we talk about service provision, we have a whole network. I would close by saying that these are personal healthcare services, but there are also public care services. In the 10th anniversary of NAFTA, and this is my closing remark, before pandemics that also caused a lot of comments, in the year 2004, a NAFTA Plus was created, which included public health, security, and cooperation in epidemiological crisis. Thanks to that, a daily communication mechanism was created, and with the H1N1 outbreak, we were able to test these. The first cases occurred in Mexico, but because of the type of daily communication that we have, there is a huge daily communication between the CDC, the Ministry of Communication, and the equivalent institution in Canada. The virus was sequenced in Canada. The alert was given in Mexico. The next cases occurred in the U.S., and this was a regional response. Thanks to this, the influenza pandemic of 2009 didn't affect the rest of the world. It had a global benefit. And the question that we have to pose when we talk about renegotiating NAFTA, are we also going to finish with this? Because the result will be that U.S. citizens will be at a much higher risk than before.